I see, Olivia.
Okay. All right. Well, sorry about that. I'm hoping that that's going to be the last of our technical issues, but just wanted to give a welcome to those of our team members that are on the call. Everybody here knows Jeff as he's our fearless leader of a team of women. Myself, Megan Howard, who all of you probably know, one of our newest team members, Carla Rice, who likely you've known her by name and email, and on the phone, she calls and gets you on the calendar. And then our computer operator, Summer Shin, who you probably know her by name, and we'll go over some examples at the end of why you might have seen her name. All right. So we're moving right along. Today, what we're going to talk about, not so much some of the really technical things that you can do to protect yourself. It's really a lot of how to recognize the common formula of a scam. Um, and the ways that scammers contact you, the most common red flags, and then some practical action steps. Because the truth is scammers target everybody. You don't have to be tech savvy to protect yourself. You just need to be able to do a few common sense things, be able to recognize some patterns, stop and slow down, and understand that your best line of defense is going to be being able to recognize the same pattern and formula over and over and over again. So that's what we're going to be covering today. We're going to show some examples of some scam attempts that both Jeff and I have received, and then we're going to end with just some best practices, and then we'll open it up for questioning. So, just a little stat, and the goal of this isn't to scare everybody. Again, it's just to make you aware and help you learn to recognize these patterns. But in 2025 alone, Americans reported almost 21 billion in losses. And the different kinds of ways that these fraudsters and scammers are getting at people is things through investment fraud, imposter scams, and then one that is really on the rise is social media. So these are just figures just in the US, just from 2025. So what does a scam look like? What is the pattern? What's the anatomy of a scam that will help you to start to recognize some of these red flags? Scammers are almost all successful scams are going to follow the same pattern. And scammers are going to first, they're going to pretend to be somebody that you trust. This might be your bank. It might be the IRS, the Social Security. It could be the post office, a local utility company. Could even be somebody you know, a grandchild or a child. It could be a financial advisor. It could also be a well-known company. Just some common ones that I feel like I've personally seen in my life, things like Amazon, Apple, PayPal, FedEx, even McAfee, which is, kind of a cyber defense type software. So they're going to pretend to be someone that you trust. That's step one. The second, and this should really set off alarm bells, is they trigger emotion, whether that's fear, urgency, excitement, or panic. And the reason why that they trigger emotion is because they want you to act before thinking. They want to be able to kind of hijack that emotion and be able to remove the step of stopping, slowing down, engaging some critical thinking and kind of some common sense. So things like act now, call right now, respond immediately, click this link. These are all parts of, this is the common formula of any scam out there. And we want you to be able to recognize specifically some of these red flags. So, what are some of the top ways they're going to contact you? This is where we're going to have a few examples here. The first is email. I think if we turned it over to every single person in the webinar, any one of you would be able to forward us, dozens of examples of scam emails. Jeff has actually been collecting some emails over the past few months in preparation of this webinar. And I want to go over some of the things that you need to pay attention to, and then we're going to show some examples. The first thing always is verifying the sender address, not just the sender's name but the sender's actual email address. Is there a link in the body of the email? Is there a call to action, something you're supposed to click on? Um, what does the grammar seem off? Is the request coming through, whoever you think it is, does it sound like they would normally talk? Is there a sense of urgency? And also, I want to point out that just because something has an official logo, that's not a green flag. If something has the official your bank logo or an Apple logo or a PayPal logo, the scammers are getting really smart and they're using templates that look like they potentially could be legitimate. So what does some of these look like? Okay, here's an example of an email that Jeff received, and there's a couple things right away that should signal red flag. It should signal to Jeff or the receiver, let's slow down and let's scrutinize and look at this. The first thing is it wants him to review a document. So clicking and reviewing a document and to provide a signature, big red flag. Sometimes, we send emails that are going to require an electronic signature. We'll have an example of that at the end. And so often, our clients will screenshot it to us or they'll call us and they'll say, hey, I just received this. Is it okay if I click on it? That's exactly what you should do if you feel suspicious. So they're asking him to review a document and notice the email came from one of our email addresses and is going to the exact same email address. So they're trying to be tricky here by sending it from an email address that we are familiar with. Jeff knew that this was fraudulent. We don't send anything that looks like that. It was marked spam. Here's another one that he received. And, I've got a 5-year-old and I've got an 8-year-old. I get birthday party invitations all the time. My husband is a high school principal and he's getting graduation announcements. We get bridal shower announcements, all kinds of different invitations from things like Evite and Punchbowl. This one could easily trip me up. So again, because they're being asked to open and click on an invitation, we need to go and verify who is sending it to us. The from is very clear and tells us this is not a real person, and that's clearly a phishing attempt. Here's another one that I mentioned that said, when you have a logo, that shouldn't be a green flag. Here's one from Apple. It's saying that an appointment has been booked and that there's a payment of $623. That's the panic. That's the fear that they're trying to instill. I didn't make a $623 purchase. What's going on? Here, call us at Apple support. This is a very, very common setup. If an organization reaches out to you and says that has been a charge, if this isn't correct, call us immediately. Never ever call the number embedded in an email or a text message. Look up online where your bank, you have your bank phone number, call your, actually call the institution directly and speak to them because so often that this is fraudulent. Again, how else do we know that? We come up here, we see who's it from. It's just from some random email. Here are a couple that are a little trickier. These came to Jeff, and these came from people impersonating his children. So this is his son, Elliot. It came from Elliot, and he's sending him pictures. Now, Jeff has grandkids. He wants to see pictures. They took a trip. He wants to see. On first pass on this email, it might be really easy to click that link. But because there's a link in there, that's a huge red flag. So we need to go back and say, okay, well, who sent it to us? Well, it says by the name that it's coming from Elliot, but when we actually can see the email address, it's clearly not him. Jeff sent this to me based off of a screenshot on his computer. But what would it look like if he were to open up a similar email on his phone? This is one that apparently I sent to him. And it came through again with some pictures. It's not uncommon for me to text pictures to dad or send them off to his skylight, but this one came through email. And if he only looks at it from his email, you can see that it just shows my name. And this is exactly how my name would appear if I were to send him something legitimate. So in this case, he doesn't see the full email address. He needs to click on it you have to click on your name. This is iPhone. And Android might be a little different. I'm sure it's quite similar to actually expose the email address. And it's very clear to see that that is not my email. Also, let's go back really fast on this. One of the things that I mentioned at the beginning was paying attention to grammar. Um, this isn't the way I would talk. This isn't my dad knows how I speak to him and how I would send something to him. So that also should be a red flag for him that this isn't the way I would talk. It's also not the typical method that I would send photos to him. Social media and apps, I'll kind of go through these quickly. The most common way that people are getting scammed on social media is shopping, and this is through fraudulent websites. It's through counterfeit products. If something is too good to be true, or especially like high demand items at like low cost, maybe things that are sold out everywhere, a new release of something, and they're at low prices, that should be a red flag. Usually you're sending money overseas, you're getting, a cheap counterfeit product. You may not get your money back. You may or may not receive the product, and the real danger is exposing that your credit card or payment information online. Investment in cryptocurrency. This does account for the highest financial loss in terms of dollars. And often this is the way that this is happening. Our accounts are getting hacked. I've actually seen a personal friend of mine this happened to. Her Facebook account got hacked. And then all of a sudden she was posting about cryptocurrency. She was posting about fake testimonials and trading strategies. And she's just a teacher. And for me, it was a red flag because it just was so out of her character. But that's another way on social media. And then I really want to focus on this one, the romance and crowdfunding scams. I've seen a huge rise in this because it creates incredible, like deep connection and community, especially with things like GoFundMe or Venmo accounts. Often there might be like a local tragedy or an organization or something that people are donating money to. In my life, there was a local family, they lost their house to a house fire, and the community rallied around them to raise, just to donate some money to them. And what happens is when those things get, shared and they get circulated, is scammers will come and they'll duplicate the same cause. They might word it a little differently, or the Venmo payment handle might be a little different, and then people thinking that they're donating to a great cause are unknowingly donating to scammers. So my recommendation there is if you've got something like that in your community or something you want to give money to, especially if it comes to crowdfunding, again, like GoFundMe, is, give the money directly instead of doing it online. And text messages. Um, I know my phone, I use T-Mobile and I have an iPhone, and mine has started to weed out some unknown numbers or potential scams, which is really nice. I know T-Mobile, they can help you kind of turn some of that spam filter on, but often you'll get text messages about package deliveries, maybe a bank alert, or kind of friendly text messages, and these are all attempts to get you to engage, to give your information, or to click on a link. So here's an example of one that I've received. I think it's one of the more common ones. A package has arrived with the post office. Click this link. It clearly doesn't come from the post office. I don't think I've ever known the United States Post Office, as much as I love my local mail carriers, to really kind of go out of their way to help me track down a lost package. So again, just kind of putting things under that critical thinking. And then these are all text messages that I've also received. Just kind of low attempt, friendly text messages it's an attempt to get me to engage with them. And to be completely honest, like I said, I've got a couple small kids and new classes, and parents are sharing phone numbers. These could easily get me. What I do try is when I give my phone number out to somebody, I just ask them, text me right now or call me right now, and I save their number. That way, unknown numbers aren't coming in. All right. I'm going to spend a little bit of time kind of going over some of the common red flags. I've touched on some of these, but these are going to be the things that I want you to start getting familiarized with. Like Jeff said, we've recorded this. I've also prepared just a one-sheet flyer, and I have these red flags on the flyer. So you can just start to, really, really just let them sink in and just commit them to memory. And we'll be adding to these too. So what are the most common red flags? They create urgency. You feel like you have to act right now. There's limited time. Somebody's stealing your money. Your account is locked. Um, that is the scammers. It's one of their biggest advantages if they can get you, just to bypass the urge to slow down, creating urgency and just taking the thinking right out of it. They'll send you a link. Sending a link anytime there is a link to access information. Scrutinize that email. Make sure to look to see who it's coming from, that it's a verified sender. If we are sending you something that's asking for a signature, like a DocuSign, and you want to verify, just call us. Just stop and slow down. They'll ask for unusual payment, things like gift cards, wire transfers, cash, cryptocurrency. An unusual payment is that's a big red flag. They ask you to keep it secret. They don't want you to tell a spouse, your bank, your financial institution. They only want to talk to you specifically. That's a red flag. Ask for passwords or security codes. No legitimate company is going to ask for your password or a verification code. We are never going to ask you for a password. We can help you get unlocked and logged back into different things that you have with us, but we don't know your passwords. And we'll talk here in a minute about the one-time verification code and the multi-factor authentication. A request to install software, if you're ever getting that request, that's an attempt for them to be able to remote in into your computer. So nobody should be requesting to install software. If you are working to get software installed, you should be working with a professional to do that, so it's done the right way. But request to install software, big red flag. The investment seems too good to be true. And again, this is kind of where that critical thinking comes in, especially when it comes to just unreasonable kind of investment scams and frauds. Again, that shopping. If it seems too good to be true, if there's no risk, if there's guaranteed returns, huge red flag. That's an immediate hang up the phone, delete the email, block the contact. They instruct you to move your money to keep it safe. We've actually been seeing this one, especially in people's banks. If somebody's impersonating a bank and they're calling and saying your account has been compromised, we need to open up a new bank account and move the money in. Something like that, is really dangerous. Again, over and over and over again. Hang up the phone, call your bank directly, call your institution directly. If anybody's instructing you to move your money to keep it safe, that's a red flag. Okay, so what to do? Once what do you actually do if you're suspicious that there's fraudulent activity or you've been victim of fraud? What can you actually do now? What are some practical steps that you can take? So if something doesn't feel right, first and foremost, just stop. Just stop. If somebody has called you and something doesn't feel right, hang up the phone. If somebody is calling from Emerald City Fiduciary Group and they are asking for things that we normally wouldn't ask for, something doesn't feel right, just hang up. You guys all have our number, just call us back. And if it really was us, it'll be fine that you hung up on us, but hang up the phone. One of the scammers' biggest advantages is they can get you on the phone and keep you on the phone and just continuing to incite that panic, that fear, that urgency. Don't click. Don't click on a link. Don't click on anything. Don't reply. Don't engage. and don't send any money. So stopping and slowing down, as simple as that seems, is going to be your number one defense, is simply slowing down. Just take your time, verify, call the company, whether it's the bank or, like I said, if somebody from our office calls, call them directly. Not from a phone number that's in an embedded email, not from a phone number that they called from. Call the legitimate, call the legitimate number and, just share with what's happened. A bank is going to be able to let you know if there's been, any issues in your account or if they've been compromised. The bank is also never going to email you telling you that, you need to move your money or your account's been compromised. And then report. Report it, FTC, report it to your bank, report it to us, your credit card company, and then make sure you tell somebody that you trust. Whether that's a spouse, whether it's a child, a sibling, a neighbor, somebody that you trust needs to know what's happening to you. Because what happens is so often is people just get embarrassed. They get scammed and they're so embarrassed that this has happened to them, and they either delay or they don't report it or they don't tell the people that they care about. And and I don't want anybody here, if you've fallen victim to scam or do in the future, the scammers are getting so sophisticated, and they are preying on people of all different ages, all different all different methods. And so it's nothing to feel embarrassed or ashamed about, but we want to help you just put those safeguards in place. So again, just kind of reiterating some of the things I've already said. Call your banks, freeze your cards if necessary. Another piece of advice that I've heard Jeff give, which I really like, is if you are using debit cards, keeping a low balance in an account that has a debit card, because once that account has been compromised, that those funds, there's much more liability. But if you're, doing something like with a credit card and then you're paying off the credit card, you've got a little bit more protection there. So just kind of thinking about some of those practical things. Changing your passwords, contact your advisor, monitor your accounts, file reports if your money was lost. And this last one, consider changing your email address or your phone number. I know some of us have had the same, phone numbers and email addresses for decades. But once you've fallen victim to scam or fraud, that information is out there. You have just put a huge bullseye on your back, and it's worth it. It's worth it to just start over fresh and not have to worry about whenever emails are coming in or phone calls are coming in, if they are fraudulent or not. So, making those changes. All right, here are some kind of best practices. We actually did a seminar similar to this a couple of years ago. We used the same screen and we've added a few things. Let's talk about multi-factor authentication. Multi-factor authentication, I can't remember the last time I've logged into something and not needed multi-factor authentication. It usually comes in a couple different forms. One which is my favorite, is either a phone call or a text message to your personal phone with a code. You can also get a multi-factor authentication code sent to your email. Why I prefer the phone is because if a hacker has hacked your email, then they can intercept that multi-factor authentication code. But for them to be able to pretend to be you, hack into something, and then also be able to input a code from your phone, they'd have to have your phone. They'd likely also have to have you to unlock your phone. So always enable multi-factor authentication. So often now, places require it, but if it's optional, opt in. It is a very safe and secure way to keep, to keep your things private. So multi-factor authentication, use strong passwords. Don't use the same password for every single account that you have. Use the special characters, use numbers. I'm a Apple Mac computer person, and my computer suggests strong passwords. I usually just use those. Um, and because it's not something that's easily hackable. Safe document uploads. Jeff's going to talk a little bit about this at the end here in just a few minutes. But sending documents securely is also extremely important. All of our clients have access to a software called eMoney. And if you're in the meeting and you either have never gotten set up with eMoney or you need help getting back in, please let us know and we will help you get set up and we'll help you get logged back in. This is our preferred method of how clients share things with us, like tax returns, pay stubs, account statements. Likewise, it's where we share our reports back with you. It is like a bank level safe program. Banks have to they have to determine if something is safe enough for them to have a live connection to it. And everybody has access to a vault inside their eMoney profile, and that's where we want you to send secure documents. It's the most secure way to send us documents. So we're going to show you also what it looks like when we upload documents in there, so it doesn't get reported for fraud. Again, verify the sender email, not just the person's name, but actually verify the email address. Have safe password storage. I know a lot of people like to have a hard copy of their passwords. They have little password books. Make sure that that's in a safe place, a lockbox, a safe, somewhere that it can't be exposed. Regularly installing software updates, remove unused apps. I've recently gone through and done this, and there's all kinds of different settings on your phone. When you download an app and nobody's reading that, multi pages of legalese when you accept an app. A lot of the apps, you're giving them permission to view things, to run in the background. So really only have essential apps that you need on your phone. Avoid public Wi-Fi. There's a temptation when you go to your local coffee shop, or, maybe if you're at a hotel, just to join the Wi-Fi. You really become susceptible to, different kind of leaks isn't the right word, but, you're a lot more vulnerable on a public Wi-Fi. So I know when I'm in a situation like that, if I absolutely have to get on wireless, I'll just use my personal hotspot. So I'll be able to get online using a personal hotspot, and I'm a little bit more protected that way. Disabling pop-ups, avoiding mass emails. What I mean by this is often, let's say, you know, Aunt Susie's, rounding up the troops for the annual summer potluck with everybody, and Aunt Susie's plugging in everybody's email address, and they're just all in the to line. So they're all public, they're all visible. Well, if any one of those people on that list ends up getting hacked, those hackers now have access to all of those different email addresses. So, and if you've got, if you're the one who's doing it, I would encourage you, don't do that. There's a line in an email where it says BCC, and that's blind carbon copy. That way, all the same people can get the emails, but then their actual email addresses aren't exposed. So avoid that when you can. Utilize these are much more technical. The last two, utilizing encryption like a VPN, which is a virtual personal network, or firewalls and intrusion detection. A VPN is really just a way. It's both of these things require, having a professional help you get some actual stuff installed, and it just keeps the activity that you do online private. The way I've heard it said is a VPN. It's like if you send a postcard in the mail, everybody can read what you wrote. And so that's kind of like, you're walking around, everybody can see what you're doing, everybody can, all the moves that you're making online. But using a VPN is like putting that in a sealed envelope and then sending it through the mail. You can't actually see what's going on underneath that. So these will also be on the one sheet flyer that I'm going to provide to everybody who has attended, and I can be send it out to anybody who needs it. But with that, we're going to go into some examples of, and I'm gonna let Jeff unmute himself. I'm gonna ask him to unmute and just talk through what some of the different emails that come from us could look like, that we want you to know that they're legitimate.
Oh, thanks, Olivia. Um, and we got another maybe 5 minutes of content here, and then we'll open it up for questions. And I just want to reiterate for those who joined us after the top of the hour, we are recording this, and this will be available for review on our website sometime next week. Um, this month marks the sixth anniversary of Vivian actually passing the torch to me and actually selling me the practice. Um, and one of the things that I brought to the table at that time was we've asked you to be involved in technology, DocuSign, eMoney, Allbridge. These are all tools that we do use. And one of the processes that we have continued to use is the Morningstar reports. We do your required minimum distribution report and any other reports that we have. We're now using some tax software. Those documents are uploaded into your eMoney vault. And basically, the person that updates it or uploads it, eMoney will automatically send you a email, and this is what it looks like. A this is a legitimate email. So this could say it says cash flow, but it could say Morningstar. It could say a variety, whole list of plan, taxes, whatever. But you can see it's from notification at eMoney Advisors. It doesn't come directly from Emerald City Fiduciary Group. It comes from the eMoney website. And since the about 5 years ago, I've had three different computer operators, David, Daniel, and now Summer. And their responsibility on the team is to get these documents prepared and uploaded into your eMoney file. And we get periodically we get a call and they go, "Gosh, I got this email from somebody." And Summer is that's Summer came to us about a year ago. That's she's Korean, and her first name is what it will show on the eMoney site, and her first name is a Korean, South Korean name, and it means summer. That's why she goes by Summer. But that's what's going to maybe trip you up a little. Gosh, who's this person or who's that person or David, Daniel. I could upload a document. It's coming from me, and you'll normally see this kind of thing right before we have a meeting. Um, so we've embraced this as well as using DocuSign, and DocuSign is a fabulous tool. And we've had a variety of DocuSign accounts because the company, if you've been with us very long, we were at KMS, that's the broker dealer behind the scenes. And then we were at Securities America, and now we're at Osaic. Those are all behind the scene broker dealer changes that I or Vivian had nothing to do with. Um, and then also our Schwab account. So as you know, I'm a fiduciary. The name of our company is Emerald City Fiduciary. And a fiduciary is just somebody that's got a license that can charge fees and so on. Vivian didn't have a fiduciary license. She had the license for the brokerage things. And so those are the contrasts. Osaic is our back office. And if it's not a Schwab account, it'll come to you and it'll look different, but they're both legitimate. Now, when I'm talking about the Charles Schwab emails for DocuSign that come to you, Charles Schwab is probably one of the most finicky compliance companies I've ever worked with. In other words, when you sign a DocuSign document with Charles Schwab from us, they're going to put you through a verification process. They normally ask three questions. They give you multiple choice who is, what age is Olivia Rice? And they'll give you a range. Or how are you related to these five people? Or is there anybody on this list? And sometimes they'll just try to trick you. Like there's nobody on the list that you're related to, or so on. But that's Charles Schwab's process. And the Osaic ones is a little different. And what we do with the Osaic emails, and this is normally comes from Megan, is we'll send you a verification code. She'll say, here's your code to get into the document. So because I've asked you to do this, just be aware that these are the legitimate tools. And we're really grateful that people have embraced this. And if you're uncomfortable with these kinds of processes, just remember we also have the old school process. We will always have an office. And if you don't feel comfortable doing that, you tell us. We'll print the documents off, we'll send them to you, or we'll have them available in our office in Mercer, so you can come right in and just go ahead and sign docs. Um, Traditionally, as we onboard people, we have a couple of technical onboarding things that we want people to do. And Olivia has really in the team been I've delegated those things to her. You can obviously tell she's highly skilled at this and getting people on board with these various software packages, whether it's eMoney or Allbridge or whatever. We're doing things are good. And Carla, by the way, if you didn't recognize her name, she's got the same last name as Olivia because Carla is Olivia's mother-in-law. We share the same grandchildren. And Carla will be cross-training into our technology onboarding team. So if you get a call, and you've gotten calls from Carla, she's the one that handles our calendar. But I just want you to be aware of the potential people that could be touching base with you in a technology format. So let's just close with this. Cyber criminals don't usually hack computers. They hack people. And as Olivia has said, their biggest weapon is urgency, fear, and trust. There have been cases of our clients, and she didn't really touch on this, but this is one of the big ones, is they'll capture the screen of your computer and tell you you're involved in some kind of pornography ring. Big red flag, huge fear, and people have fallen for that. Um, I will add as well, as people age, they're also looking for the people that are beginning to, let's just say, not be on the top of their game. Okay. You know what I mean? And as you get older, my grandfather was 104, sharp as a tack. My dad, not so much. And he struggled for 8 or 9 years, and his cognitive abilities just declined. And we're very much aware of that as a team. And we try to take precautions when we see it. And I'm trained every year on the fears or the aging process and what to be aware of. So with that, we'll just say, look, we love our clients. We want to do a good job for them. We're using 21st century tools, and we want to help protect you and help you protect your digital identity the same way that you would want your money protected. You want to have your identity protected as well. So with that, I'll stop here and open it up for questions. If you uh, use the chat feature or raise your hand. I don't know, Olivia, if I've ever uh, done this here, but uh, if if you put a question in the chat or you raise your hand, possibly we can open up your microphone. So I'll give you a moment or two here to see if there's any questions.
Oh, hang on one second. I think. Okay, I believe now I have enabled the chat. So I apologize if we had people this whole time having questions. And
Okay, I think I can open it up. Bob Henry, you have a question? Try,
now
give it.
give it a try. Yeah, I think I had disabled that. So to bear with me here for a moment. And let's see if I'm able to unmute people.
Okay, here we go. Let's see. What is the danger of opening up an Evite? Well, it's just the sender. Who are you getting it from? That's one of the things that we spent a lot of time on, and it's the number one way I determine whether or not it's phony. It's like, who's it from?
Yeah, I mean, you don't know, like same with like clicking to sign a document or a signature. If it's not somebody you know or it looks like a phony email address, the danger is you don't know when you're clicking, are they going to ask for other information or, what is it that they're going to prompt you to do? So if it's somebody that you know who's sending you the evite, no problem. It's when it's from somebody that you don't know, you just don't know what's on the other side of that link. Is it a way to remote in to your computer? Are they going to ask for more information? There's a lot of different ways.
All right, so let's see. We're going to try Bob. Okay, try Olivia. If we can we
Allow to talk.
go, Bob? You there?
We might have answered his question. I don't know.
There, how's that? Can you hear me now?
Bob, yes, so I can. Thanks, Bob.
Hey,
Yeah, go ahead.
um, Olivia mentioned that one way that scammers can get into your finances is through your debit card, and the debit card is linked to our checking account. If I have, sizable amount of money in my checking account, should I hurry up and move it all out of there and put it into savings or some other kind of account? What do you think?
Bob, I have a debit card too, and the movie Catch Me If You Can with uh, Leonardo DiCaprio played the starring role, but the guy behind it was a scammer who went to jail, and now he's been in the worked for the federal government for 40 years. He said the best thing to do is not use a debit card, but use a credit card, because if you use a credit card and it's fraudulent, you haven't lost any money. Um,
Hmm.
I personally don't, credit cards and I don't get along that well. So I use a debit card. So what we're saying is if you have a debit card attached to your bank account that you use, this is my recommendation. This is the Jeff Moormeyer, recommendation is if you have a debit card that you use a lot, just don't keep a lot of cash in there. If you know your budget is a couple
Mhm.
$1,000s a month or whatever, have the bulk of your money somewhere else and you can move it back and forth. Um, I work with Wells Fargo, and by the way, I will give them the credit where credit is due. They've been really good. I've been traveling and get a call from them. Hey, we're getting some things on your card that are coming out of Switzerland. Well, that's where I am. I'm on a ski trip.
Mhm.
Wells Fargo does a really good job. Um, they will text me and and then, as Olivia said, you don't respond to maybe the phone number. Wells Fargo, I don't think ever they ever put the phone number in there. They just say, call us and talk to the fraud department. And I know where to go get the phone number. Never call the number in the message. Call the number that you know about. Does that answer your question, Bob?
Yes, it does. Can you hear me still?
Yes.
Yes, yes, I can.
About to mute you again though, so.
Can I have one more question?
Go ahead.
Um, what do you make of these apps that are supposedly secure, but you can store your passwords in?
Yeah, they're
And do you recommend any?
well, first of all, I'm an Apple user, and Apple's had their password. They used to
Yeah,
call it keychain. Now it's an Apple password. It's Apple password.
right.
And uh, as technology has evolved, are there other password saving software out there. We've used a variety of them. Google has one, Apple has one. Um, those are excellent because it takes away from you writing it down and then laying it next to your computer or putting it in your pocket or something like that. Now, where I find it to be a little a little tough is they kind of fight each other sometimes. But
Mhm.
with the new operating system on Apple, Apple is then allowing the browser, a Google browser, to access the Apple password system. I use those all the time, and they're fantastic. And that's a very, very safe way to keep your passwords. Um, so the things that frustrate me is the things that frustrate me a little is, it used to be, okay, your password's got to be 8 characters. Now it's got to be 12. Now it's going to be 16, and I think once you turn two-factor authentication on and you put your password in, to my mind, it's like there's, 6 digits, that's about a million combinations. So you need a password and two-factor. That's really the safest, absolute safest way. And as we've said before, most of these hackers aren't trying to get into those systems. They're trying to get you to participate. They don't necessarily want to burrow through, firewalls. They want you to open up the door and let them right in the front door. And
Mhm.
that's the number way that the number one way they get in there. So that's why we spent so much time in just identifying what a scam looks like. And we'll, you know, we've already talked about that. Uh,
Barb has a question. Has anyone ever had their American Funds account hacked? Were they reimbursed?
American Funds account, you mean where you actually physically go to American Funds? So let me just say, for those that don't have American Funds accounts, uh, American Funds is one of our finest companies, and they have a website that you can go to and see your stuff on. Not that I am aware that they've been hacked, or uh, that what we've seen is again, going back to, um, they're not hacking sites, they're hacking people. So what we have seen is people getting fooled, and then they go to their American Funds accounts to give the hackers money. I have a neighbor here. He's not a client. He passed away a number of years ago. But he just go to the bank and get money and put it in a paper bag and hand it to him. Um, Now, that particular client had significant cognitive decline, and his family couldn't help him because he was non-cooperative. Um, if that's you, cooperate with your family. That's my point. When you cooperate with a trusted advisor, a son, a daughter, a spouse, then we can put in some guardrails. So we want to protect you from yourself. Let's just put it that way. I also want to make another a comment here because we get this question a lot too. Crypto. We do not recommend crypto. Crypto is not a form of financial currency that Jeff Mormeyer believes in. Um, there's companies out there that may be a stock that is designed to have let's call it a platform for trading or something like that. That's a different than buying a Bitcoin or this coin or that coin. So we will never ever send you anything like that. And I get that question a lot. Um, so
I
does,
also want to make a quick point of just piggybacking on something Jeff just said. Megan, Jeff, and I, we're all trained as well, talking about kind of just the cognitive decline. And one of the leading signals that something might be cognitively wrong with somebody is when they start to give their money away. So we are all, trained and held to a standard to help protect you. And every once in a while, we do have clients who make who make requests for large sums of money that are a little bit out of the ordinary. And often we will go to that client, we're required to say, hey, your wife is your trusted contact, your husband, we want to talk with them. We want to make sure that, this is an abnormal request. And so it's something sometimes it feels a little uncomfortable for us because we're not questioning you necessarily, but it's just a part of our protocol. It's one of the checks that we need to go through to make sure even when you yourself are calling and asking for money, if it's out of the ordinary, if it's a really large sum of money, it doesn't line up with kind of what our normal conversations have been. It's also why we like to have regular meetings. That's a red flag for us. And we have checks and balances that we go through to make sure that we're operating in your best interest.
Um, I have a comment here from one of the participants. Need to be careful with Evite from people you know. I received an Evite from someone I know using their actual email. It was an event I would not be surprised about. So, Evite,
Directly. Yeah, reach out directly to the person who you think sending it to you and ask, call them.
inviting to a anniversary party for, Joe and Betty. Just give Joe or Betty a call. Say,
Hmm.
hey, is this legit? Yeah. Again, stop, slow down, verify,
Hmm. Yeah.
and that's really helpful.
And
I'm going to go back to the password thing for a minute. Do we have a recommendation for password managers? Well, if you have an Apple, it's embedded, which is called Password. I Google also has embedded passwords, and those are generally on Windows-based machines. And I forget, we used a network, which what was the name of that? Some of my staff still use a little bit of it. We used to, since we have a network, we had network passwords too, but I don't use those anymore. I forget the name of it, but it's
LastPass,
what Olivia, what was it called?
LastPass.
LastPass. LastPass is a recommended password saving app that I would recommend. And now it just became more complicated for us because the LastPass would have a password and user ID, and then Keychain would have one, and then Google would have one, and I called it the browser password war. You need to have one dominant one that saves all of them. The good news with Apple is the Apple Keychain is now a password app that will share with any browser you use, whether it's Safari, Firefox, or Google. So I hope that answers the question. We're getting ready to get to the top of the hour here, and we want to respect your time and we want to be done. I'll take any last questions. We got time for one more question, if I can see it in the chat. Anybody? Let's see. And if somehow we don't get to your question, just email us and we will respond and give you an answer.
Mhm. And also, please, like I had said before, I mean, I got an email yesterday from a client saying, "Is this legitimate?" And it was. It was something that we'd sent to her, but I just showed an example, a fraudulent example of something that was sent from one of our email addresses to Jeff. If you ever receive anything that just seems suspicious, just don't even hesitate. Even with e-money and people getting locked in and out, sometimes they call us like, "I don't want to bother you. Please bother us. This is what we're here for. We want to help you. We want to make sure you can access your accounts. We want to make sure you can get in. And we build time in our calendar for those kinds of things." Uh,
Yeah.
mhm.
Yes, well, thank you very much. We plan on updating this. We plan on doing this once a year. Um, July is cyber, or June is cybersecurity protection month. We get a lot of good feedback from a variety of vendors, Schwab included, and but also all these anecdotal stories have happened to a degree. Some of these stories have happened to our clients already, and we want to be very proactive and help you. So with that, thank you very much for coming. Like I said, if you came in the meeting late, we will have this. Um, let's just call it edited and uploaded onto our website sometime next month or next week.
Mm.
Okay?
Thank you all so much.
You.
All right.
Bye, everyone.